We typically, this takes an hour. If we have any leftover time, we'll see about that. But I think we're going to have a very fulsome discussion today. And here's our agenda. I know a couple of updates, and then we'll hand it over to our special guest, Tammy, who I'm going to introduce. And then we'll have some discussion. Then I'll be talking a little bit about some of the positive stories that we've been seeing, and that'll end our session. First and foremost, we've got today Tammy Wellen from the Canadian Mental Health Association, who's the education lead there of mental health promotion. Very active in the past month, definitely. And certainly with Mental Health Week just passed, and this is still a very timely topic. And we're interested to benefit from Tammy's knowledge and guidance. You see her bio on the screen here. She spoke previously about her experience with breast cancer and how that had changed her life and got her more involved and active in the community. Yesterday, actually, she was joining us on our Instagram Live, which I'll talk about later today. But certainly we're very fortunate to have Tammy join the session today. She can bring us a lot of insight, especially on a topic of mental health, self-regulation, meaning how can we stay in a state of mind where we'll be able to make some purposeful decisions and do things that will be beneficial for ourselves and our organizations. And then the floor will be open for people to ask their questions of Tammy throughout. You can type questions in the chat. You can indicate to us that you'd like to chime in. I'm sure there'll be lots of moments where we'll be going back and forth and really trying to understand what can we do for ourselves here, and how can we make this lasting. We know the context around COVID-19, and it has an adverse effect on our mental health. So Tammy's going to speak all about that, so I won't say anything further. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy. Welcome, Tammy.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for having me as a guest today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to say it's Happy Thursday. I would say that over the past little while, I am starting to forget what day of the week it is, but I do have to look in my calendar to remember. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. As the days and weeks have been passing, one day seems to roll into the next. And there are things that we can do. There are things that I have been doing, for example, that are helping me try and stay into a routine during the week, so that when my weekends and your weekends roll around, they actually feel like a weekend and we can have a break. Because I will say that when we are working from home, which I know many of you are, it is very easy to do more work because we're at home, because the laptop is there, because we are bored even. And I am going to encourage you not to do that. And we'll talk about this over the next hour. So my name is Tammy. I work at the Canadian Mental Health Association. I'm coming up to my 10th year there, and I am now the education lead for the organization. I run or work with a team. There's about 12 of us in total that are facilitators in the community. And I will say that over the past 10 years that there has been tremendous growth with education concerning mental health, which is encouraging to me, because that means that people are talking about it, people want to talk about it, and a lot of agencies and corporations are interested in having us speak and educate them about mental health and how to support their staff. So it's been very encouraging. So if we can move on to the next slide, we're going to talk about the things that we are hopefully going to learn over the next hour. So we're going to talk about extraordinary times. And I would say that what we're experiencing right now would be considered extraordinary. Never in my life, I'm 46 years old, never in my life have I experienced something where such like this, or that I've been told that I can't go to the grocery store, I can't see the people in my life that I love. It's been very interesting, to say the least. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what that looks like. We're also going to discuss how this makes us feel, because it can be very discouraging at times, for sure. We're also going to look at strategies to help us work from home. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. We're going to look at recognizing approaches that foster well-being, and we're going to familiarize ourselves with the resources available. Lucky for you, Volunteer MBC, and lucky for us, CMHA Peel, we already have a great partnership. We do a lot of things together, but I'm just going to send out some reminders towards the end of the presentation as to who you can turn to. And I want you to think outside of the box, especially when you are not having a not so good day based on what we're experiencing right now. So we know that this outbreak of COVID-19 has more people working from home. I think most of you are working from home, but I also, I shared this yesterday on the Instagram live feed. We're not working from home. And I'll tell you why, because when I'm not presenting in the community, when I'm not speaking, at the community door, and I get to work from home, it is nice and quiet. My kids are at school, my spouse is at work, my cats are usually asleep. Now, for the past 2 months, I'm trying to work from home. I'm now doing webinars. And I have 6 people in this house to share the space with and to share the sound with. It can get very loud in here. And then I have to add in breakfast, lunch, and dinner that I'm doing a lot more of than I was before, because everyone's here all the time. So it is very challenging. And I would say that it's not working from home per se. We're trying to work from home during a pandemic. So keep that in mind, because this is an extra stressor that me are dealing with. And we have to work extra hard if we want to keep sane, for lack of a better term. So moving on to the next slide, I'm going to offer you some tips. But before we go there, let's have a conversation. So we have the chat box there, which I love because I can see. Can a few of you share with me how you've been feeling over the past 2 months? I know for me that, I have some good days and I have some bad days. And on those pretty crappy days, I feel maybe sad. Sometimes I'm irritated. I know that other parents have reached out to me via, Instagram or Facebook, talking about, I guess, their frustration with their children, frustration with just getting things done around the house and not being able to see their family. What are you feeling? Can you type some messages into the chat?
It's Robert here. I just want to make sure, Tammy, you can see the chat box.
I can. Yes.
So you can respond directly to some of this then.
Exactly. Thank you. Okay. So someone has said constant balancing act within my context. Yes, for sure. Overwhelmed, definitely. And balancing everything, especially now, is super difficult. Some good, some bad days, taking it one day at a time. And, I would say, Maria, that's perfect advice. That's all we can do. But while we're doing this, we have to be forgiving of ourselves and be compassionate. And what I mean by that is when you're having a crappy day, like I was not feeling it on Monday, I had to walk away from the laptop because those emails will always be there. They're not leaving until I look at them. So what I decided to do on Monday is I took a quick look. I read them through just to see if I needed anything to do right now, meaning is there anything urgent? And there wasn't. So I walked away, and I didn't walk away for 15 minutes. I walked away for an hour. I left the house. I went for a walk. I grabbed a coffee. because I needed to reset. Because, you know, as you know, rolling out of bed every morning and then going to your computer, it starts to feel like Groundhog Day, and it can get mundane and boring. So we need to do what we need to do to shake it up a bit. Sean has thrown in here, feeling mostly good, have to be thankful. I'm driving my wife crazy, but talking too much. She works quietly, and there's no line between work and home. Does the work ever end? I'm always in the office. So yes, it does end, and I'm going to tell you how to make sure that you end your work day. It's going to take practice though, Sean, and most of you out there, I want you to know the same. So this is a perfect segue into my first slide. And I'm going to say that everything that I'm going to talk about today is not rocket science, okay? However, you need someone like me to remind you to take care of yourselves and to practice. Because yes, this comes naturally, but at the same time, when we're on a roll or when we're on our laptop or on our phones, it's very easy to get sucked in and stay there for a very long time. And if we're doing that, then we are not taking a break. And you already know that being online, that being in front of a computer or a phone, it is not healthy. It can be fun, it can be exhausting, especially if it's work, but it definitely has an effect on our mental well-being. So let's move on to tip number 1, which is maintaining regular hours. So like Sean just mentioned, does the day ever end? It should and it could, but it's up to you. Okay, so I'll give you a brief example. When I started this in March, I thought, you know what, I can handle this, no problem. And a week rolled around, I was pretty content. I was in my pajamas, and after about a week and a half, 2-week mark, I started to notice a change in my sleep. I started to notice a change in my eating habits. I also noticed a change in my mood. So what I had to do is practice what I preach. And this is the first thing I went to: setting a routine. So this means on your Monday to Friday, if that's your work week, you need to set a schedule, right? We use Outlook. I'm gonna guess that you do too. Put all of your things that you need to do on a daily basis in your calendar and Outlook. Set clear guidelines. So I'm going to start at 9 and I'm going to shut it down at 5. Or, sometimes I start at 9 and I shut it down at 6 because I'm taking a full hour break, right? You know what to do. You're an adult and you're a responsible being. Making sure to take breaks. I have conversations with my manager, and oftentimes she tells me that she doesn't leave her sofa and computer all day long. That is not healthy. We need to make sure that even if we're booking meetings throughout the day, that there are breaks in between. I had a meeting before this, and I let them know flat out, I got to shut it down at 11 because I have to log in at 11:40 and I need to go to the washroom and grab myself a drink before I get started, right? So it takes planning to do all of this. So not booking your meetings back to back, having a 15 to 20 minute window in between is going to help you. Also eating lunch, using the video conferencing for sure, and staying in touch. What I also had to do was not only set an alarm, and I set my alarm for 9 a.m., I also remind myself and have an alarm for the end of day. And I'll tell you a trick that I've done. So right now, like I said, there's a lot of us in here. I gave up my office to one of my kids, so I no longer have an office. So I take up the dining room table, and that is fine for the day. But what a lot of us do is we'll take over the dining room table and just leave it there. No, what I am doing when 5 or 5:30 rolls around, I am shutting everything down and I'm packing everything into my laptop bag, and then my laptop bag gets put in the corner of my dining room. And that signifies to me that my work day is done and I'm not going back there for the rest of the night. So this is a tip I have. This is a tip that works, and it makes me feel good because I don't have or feel the need to go back to my laptop or to go back to my work phone. So maintaining regular hours, making sure that you have a sleep routine is also going to be important. So aside from this and keeping to this theme, does anybody else have anything they want to add to maintaining regular hours? And if you do, you can add it and we can move on to the next screen. Okay, so Catherine here mentioned that she's lucky because she's an extreme organizer, perhaps from raising 5 children, mostly on my own. I stick to my lists I see as achievements, no matter how small. Okay. I love that. So using notes, we're going to talk about that, sticking to a schedule. And I'm hearing you say that you are celebrating your successes, which is something that I love. Andrea here mentioned that I find moving to different locations throughout my day to be helpful. Yeah, that would be a good one too. I do move from my dining room table to my bedroom sometimes. I never really bring my laptop to my sofa because I find I get too comfortable for a while, and then I start to, I'm getting older, have aches and pains. I noticed in the first week and a half, my entire right arm was numb for about a week, and I realized it was because of the dining room table. It's higher, so I'm using different parts of my body. Maria talked about listening to music or podcasts. Absolutely, I do the same. I have the music on when I'm working because that helps me. Tip number 2 kind of evolved from tip number 1. So tip number 1 is keeping a routine. Tip number 2, I want you to think about your normal routine when you are going into the office or when you are going in to see clients. You typically have a routine in the morning. So for me, I'll take a shower, I'll get dressed. I love to wake up a little bit earlier than my kids because I get to have a coffee and maybe play with my cats for a bit. Right now, I don't need to worry about that because I have 4 teenagers in the house and they're sleeping till way later than 9 a.m. But I am still setting an alarm. I'm taking my shower. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm having my coffee. I'm doing what I normally do during the day, which has been so helpful. So what I do and what you do are 2 different things, but try and stick to that routine because that is going to change your mindset. Some people are sharing with me that they like to work out in the morning and that gets them going. That gives them a lot of good ideas. That's also something to think about. All right, so Sean, you've said that your sofa has been your office. It is terrible. Hoping weather improves to go work on my balcony. Yes, I agree. The sofa can be an uncomfortable place when you're working. I find the laptop that's supposed to be on your lap, that is the worst position that you can have for sure. So Robert's asking if I have cats. That's therapeutic in itself. Yes, I had 4 cats. And 2 of them are no longer with us, which is very sad. So I have 2. Actually, he just jumped off. I'll show you him later. I have Romeo, who is 8 months old, and then we have Tupi, and she's 7. And we love them. Okay, moving on to tip number 3 is to get outside. So Sean just mentioned the weather. I know that it's not sunny today. However, I want to encourage you to get outside as much as you can. If you can't go for a walk, I understand. But if you have a window, open it up, get some fresh air. Sean, you mentioned your balcony. Get some fresh air, get out there. And even if it's not sunny or it's not the warmest weather, bundle up. Put on a hat, put on some gloves, get your jacket on, and get some fresh air. There is something to be said about going for a walk and getting fresh air. It does make you feel better. So some examples I have here are taking a walk if you can. I am trying to walk every day. My goal is 10,000 steps, but if I get to 5, I am somewhat content. I really love it when I get the 10,000 steps, but in order for me to do that, I need to do 5,000 in the morning and then 5,000 later on. And you can easily check that with an app on your phone. Corinne mentioned that she goes for one long power walk every day, rain or shine. I think that's a good attitude to have. Just bundle up and it'll be okay. Marina talks about a walk a day keeps the blues away, that she absolutely recommends it. Sean talked about try to walk my cat, increase stress for both of us. Yes. So I will tell you, Sean, I've had cats my entire life, and cats, they love to go outside, but they do not like to be on a leash. So if you're going to go for a walk, go on your own. Open the window. I open the window with the screen for Romeo, and he'll sit there all day long and enjoy the birds flying by. All right, and Shaminda's talking about going back into art, BMX biking, skateboarding. Good reminder of how wiser I have grown in the years. I can only bet. And Robert's saying, hey, you can walk a cat. I know. You know, it's funny you say that, Robert, because in my last home, I did have a neighbor that had a cat on a leash. And this cat had no problem with it. And it was the cutest thing because I adore cats. But every cat that I have had that I've put on a leash, my last cat, Pedro, he was a little bugger. He would learn to escape out of the harness and take off. Yeah, so I haven't had a cat that was able to do the leash. I guess it takes practice, and it really depends on that cat's mannerisms and characteristics. But my neighbor did walk the cat up and down the townhouse complex, and the cat was adorable. All right, so going outside, Tulsi mentioned listening to music. Oh, we got another cat. Lovely. We're going to start a cat, maybe video chat, weekly meeting. All right, so if we can move on to the next slide. You are right. Pets, cats, dogs, whatever, they do help with our mental well-being for sure. So tip number 4, again, can be difficult for some of us because it depends on the type of space that we have and how many people or animals you have in the house. Like I said, I used to have a home office and I loved it because I could shut the door and you know, none of the kids could bother me. But now our family has grown and well, it's always been the same, but the kids have grown. I have 4 teenagers, and so I gave my little office up to Emma, and now she has her own space, and I have to kind of figure out where to go. So I did set up a desk in my room, and that is dedicated. I do have the dining room table for the day. So it may not be an office. If you have a dedicated office space, consider yourself very lucky and fortunate. But even when we're talking about spaces in our home, you need to kind of set a space where you remind your families, don't bug me, I'm here, this is my spot, I own it for 8 hours of the day, right? And keeping home and paper, what does this say? Keep your home paperwork separate from your work paperwork. Okay, so what I mean by that is, so on my desk, you know, there's bills and all that lovely stuff that comes in the mail. If you're working from home, it's very easy for you to kind of pile everything together. You really want to separate your home life and your work life, especially when you're working from home. Otherwise, you are going to be on your laptop all day long, okay? So moving on to the next slides, if anyone has any tips they want to talk about in relation to a dedicated office space and what you have done to share with others, you can start posting those in the chat box and I will read them through. All right, so the next slide, and the tip is setting boundaries with children. If you have children, if you have pets, you do have to set boundaries with pets as well. I'll tell you, having cats, I think it's funny because either A, one of them makes an appearance on one of my webinars, which people tend to love. And number 2, there's no way you can close a door on a cat, because if you close a door to one of my cats, they actually will meow more and scratch on that door. So I have to keep my doors a crack open so that they can sneak in, which is something I've had to learn during this pandemic. If you have children, trying to set schedules with them. I have a time where I have to wake all of the kids up. Am I letting them sleep in more? Yes, I am, because let's be honest, the work that they're getting from school is equivalent to 10 hours a week. That's nothing considering they're usually in school 6 hours per day times 5. So I am letting them sleep in, and they are sleeping later. And I've just been trying to adjust week to week. And every household is different. You got to do what's best for you. But I do try and set a schedule with them. Everyone is online at different times, because when I did have everyone online at the same time, guess what? I couldn't run a webinar properly. Things were lagging because everyone was hogging up that internet space. So we just log in at different times. All right, so someone had made a comment here. I guess it's Sean. It says, what do you think? How important is getting a standing desk, or just standing and working on the kitchen counter? I think standing is a great idea. The kitchen counter has to be high enough. So maybe an island, but it has to be high enough, because if you're slouching over like that, that's not going to be good for your physical health. You'll have back pain and neck pain in no time. So if you can get your hands on a standing bike, some organizations are, sending them over. I know that with CMHA Peel, we have a wellness fund where people usually use for the gym, but they have opened it up for us to change our work chairs, or some people have been able to get a standing desk, and the organization is paying a portion of it. But it really depends on what your organization is doing. But I wouldn't recommend standing over a regular table, that's for sure. So going back to our children, and if anyone has anything in relation to their children and what they're doing to cope, letting them know when you're making a call. This doesn't always work. Last week I was running a webinar right here. I let everybody in the house know to be quiet. I think I said, shut up, please. And sure enough, I have, I believe it was Adrian who locked Isaac out of the front door, and then Isaac was banging, and I'm sitting here trying to smile and run the webinar, and thankfully somebody intervened and helped me out with that. So remember that even when you set agendas and remind people that you're doing something, if you have kids in the house, no matter what the age, there may be an interruption. So whoever just joined right now, if you can do me a favor and turn your mic off and put it on mute so that we don't hear any background noise. Also, it's important to try and spend time with them. I know that just from emails that I'm receiving is that some parents are feeling guilty because they feel like they're working all day and all night long. Again, I'm going to throw this back to you. This is up to you to shut it down at the end of the day. If you're going to continue to work, that is on you. And if you want to spend time with them, then again, you're going to set that time into your schedule. And alternate shifts with a partner if you have one. If you don't have one, that's going to be very difficult. So just thinking back to when my kids were little, it may be turning on cartoons or whatever it is that entertains them for the hour that you're in a meeting. I also want to stress not to be so hard on yourself. And when I'm talking about this, I'm referring to, the impatience and irritability that may come up because you're at home, because you're sharing space with everybody. I have had parents connect with me to say that, they're angry with themselves because during this pandemic, they have maybe lost their cool or have become irritable with their kids, maybe even said some things that they weren't too proud of. And my answer or my thought to that is, cut yourself some slack, because you are in a very different circumstance right now. We've never had to work from home while everybody is in the same house sharing the same space. So have some self-compassion, walk away, and come back when you are in a better mindset. Okay, so Robert has a question. How do you make children understand the emergency? I think, so this one's interesting because there's two parts to this, Robert. Number one, I understand and I appreciate the importance of keeping our children, no matter what age, informed. But I also think for our mental well-being, there is such a thing as too much information overload. And if I can give you an example, if you have your TV on all day long and it's on a news channel, and children are around, and even if they're playing, they're listening to all of this negativity all day long. It is going to affect them, and it can increase the anxiety and fear that they have about it. So I'm very weary of, the time that my TV is on. To be honest, I can't remember the last time I was watching the news, because at this point, I don't need to know an hour to hour or even day-to-day update. I'm doing my thing. I will check in once in a while. And even if the news is off, social media have all sorts of posts that are going on. So I also try and take a break from that. So we want to educate them. We want to, encourage them to understand and appreciate what's going on. But at the same time, I would say there is such a thing as too much information. So, having regular, normal conversations with them and trying to have a conversation where they get it, but at the same time, not increasing that anxiety and frustration in them. So if we can move to the next slide, we can move on to tip number 6, which there is no tip number 6. Sorry about that. All right, so in this slide, I want to talk to you about your own mental well-being. And of course, if you are working on you can help other people in your household. Oftentimes, we use one or two things that we enjoy or that we like for our own mental well-being to keep us grounded. However, I have pointed out several things here that I want you to consider, because sometimes we forget about these things. So we want to look at our emotional wellness. We want to look at our physical wellness. We want to look at our social wellness. Also environmental, occupational, spiritual, and intellectual wellness. All of these things, I want you to imagine, are pieces to a pie, and that pie is your mental well-being, right? So if we're feeling down, for example, what can we do to increase or feel better about our mental well-being? So maybe it looks like physical. We have to get out and go for that walk. Maybe after that walk, you're still feeling kind of crappy. Well, I want you to one-up that, and I want you to think about maybe your spiritual wellness. So maybe that's reading a book. Maybe that's going online. And I've noticed that a lot of churches and mosques have online what are they called? I'm going to call them online classes. So maybe you're doing something like that. If that's not working for you, then maybe you're doing something intellectually, like starting a new project, like reading a new book, or something that's getting your mind to activate. Also, socially, I think this is the thing that I miss the most, because I am a very social person. I think you all know that based on what I do for a living. I love being around people. I love talking to people. I love meeting people, but I can't do that face to face aside from the people in my family. But I am making sure that I am calling friends at least, or video chatting when I can. And even saying that, sometimes that can be exhausting. All right, so keep in mind that there are many things that we can do for our overall mental well-being. It's not just one thing. Okay, I'm going back to the comments here now. Robert mentioned, excellent point, negativity about COVID-19 can be insidious for everyone. Absolutely. And then Tulsi mentioned here, Robert, there are some resources for children that explain the emergency in simpler terms. I can share a resource that we shared with our clients. Let me know. Yeah, and if you can share that with me, that would be great too. I would love to see that because I do have many people reaching out. So if we can move on to the next slide, practicing self-care. Now, I know we hear this term often, and in a nutshell, what does self-care mean? It means looking after ourselves. It means, however, looking after ourselves first and foremost before we take care of anyone else. So in our homes, in our workplaces, a lot of times other people's concerns or projects or needs come before us. And what I want you to think about is your needs, your wants, your projects. What can you do to celebrate you? What can you do? And even if it's for just 15 minutes a day, that is going to make you feel good. And when I talk about being happy, I just want you to think about anything that just puts you in a good space. Right? So for some, it might be to watch funny videos. I always find, you know that I like cats. I always find cat videos very entertaining, and I have a smile from here to here. Aside from that, funny movies. On top of that, connecting with friends that make me laugh in my gut. But I also want you to think about things like celebrating your successes. You know, although that we are experiencing a very frustrating time right now, an uncertain time, there are a lot of things to celebrate. And we do have things to be thankful for. Number one, if you're healthy, you should be very thankful. Number two, if you have shelter, very thankful, right? Think about the little things that we should be grateful for, because oftentimes we do have things to be thankful for. Also, I want you to think about all of the things that you do on a regular basis, and pat yourself on the back because you're doing amazing stuff. Spending time with pets, I have there, of course, my favorite thing to do. Making time for spirituality, and that looks different for everybody. Meditation, having a healthy diet, volunteering. You notice I have volunteering up there. I will tell you this, I started my career volunteering, and I love volunteering. I continue to volunteer with various different organizations, and it makes me feel good, and it is very rewarding. So in every presentation that I run at CMHA, I always add volunteering to my self-care slides. Exercising, super important. So walking is exercising for sure. I will tell you this, studies do show that exercising 3 times a week can have the same effect as an antidepressant. So if you are enjoying walks when it is nice outside, I want you to consider speeding up that walk so that you're building up a sweat, and try and walk for about 45 minutes each time. So 3 times a week where you're building up a sweat for about 35 to 45 minutes is actually going to help with your overall mental well-being and how you feel. Are there any other suggestions for self-care? Because these are some of my go-tos. Some of you probably have go-tos as well. So Sean mentions wife does jump rope on the balcony. So it's distracting for you, but you also have to give her time. I like that one. I got to pick up a jump rope. I used to love jumping rope when I was a kid. I never even thought of that. Does anyone else have any suggestions that are self-care tips and any other ways that we can exercise? Someone mentioned here, I find that a simple phone call to someone who I haven't been in touch with in a while is helpful for sure. And you know, I'm sure you're the same. We all have good intentions. We say we're going to do something. Maybe, and I'm going to have to do this when I get off the phone, is have a list, right? Come up with a list of the people that you're going to connect with and actually do it. So putting them into my calendar and making them happen. All right, so we can move to the next slide. I'm sure you've seen this before. You can find this online if you Google it. All right, someone wrote, Shaminda wrote gardening. My dad actually uses it as exercise. Yeah, I never used to garden, but I would say for the past maybe 10 years, I have been gardening and I have learned some new things, which is kind of cool. And it is exercise, especially if you are pushing a lawnmower or digging. If you do a full day or a couple of hours of gardening, you will wake up with sore muscles. The only thing I will say is if you are gardening, make sure that you're putting sunscreen and wear a big hat, because I don't know how many times I've started to garden and you kind of get lost in the moment, in the exercise, because it is therapeutic. It takes your mind away from stuff. You'll get sunburned in no time. Me anyways, I have. So Robert talked about gardening, also clearing the mind. Definitely, it has helped me with that. Julian said to reward yourself. Absolutely, reward yourself. Yesterday I had some chocolate. That was a lot of self-care for me, and it was a nice reward. And then Andrea is talking about, I have used that take a break guide before and I love it. Great way to try new things. Yes. So if you could take a look at this slide, there's all sorts of different things that you can try, and remind yourself that you're not going to like every one of them, right? You're not going to like everything. So try it. You don't like it, move on. All right. Thank you for bringing that closer. That's cool. All right, we can move to the next slide. Feel free to print that off. We're going to talk about some resources now before we log off. I'm not sure if you've heard of these two programs. They are free and they are available to you. One of them is called Bounce Back, and Bounce Back is a online tool, so you can do this from the comfort of your own home, on your laptop or on your phone. The website's there. There is a toll-free number where you can register. You do have to register, meaning you would have to give your personal information. It says on here that you don't need you need a referral from a doctor, but you can self-refer. With Bounce Back, it's really cool. I have registered myself and I have referred this to other people who have tried it. There are online videos that you can access, and then you get workbooks that are mailed to you. So you're doing work, you're watching videos, and then you're doing work in the book, and it is CBT based, and you do get access. You get assigned a telephone coach, which is pretty cool. So this is a service that's available to you, and it's free of charge. The next one to the right is Big White Wall. This is different. This is a peer-led group. So you do have to register, meaning phone number, email. However, this is anonymous. So you have anonymous peer support, you have self-guided courses that you can take. There are also some self-improvement tools that you can access. Both of these are great tools for anyone who is experiencing low to moderate anxiety and/or depression. Also keep in mind that these two services are not crisis lines. So if you are in crisis, if you are with someone who's in crisis, you're not going to access this service. I really recommend you to access CMHA Peel Dufferin's 24/7 crisis support line. You can visit our website, which is cmhapeeldufferin.ca, and you can access all of our services. So I'm assuming that Shaminda will have access to this PowerPoint. Shaminda, I have no problem with you sharing this PowerPoint with everyone that has logged on. And I've noticed that he has also posted the websites there that you can click on. Sean is asking me, what is CBT? Wonderful question. CBT has changed my life. I'll tell you this. I've been practicing it for years. I haven't been doing it for a while, but I did practice it for 7 years with a therapist. It's something called cognitive behavioral therapy. And the idea behind CBT, and studies are showing that it is very successful, is changing the way we think about certain situations. Because oftentimes we have it programmed in us to think about negative things. And when things happen to us or around us, oftentimes we can go to the negative thought first. So CBT, the idea is if I change the way that I think, it's going to change the way that I feel. Therefore, it's going to change the way that I react to a situation or act when I'm under distress. So the idea is you see a therapist, if I want you to Google CBT worksheet, and you will find all sorts of different worksheets that you can find. And essentially, that is what you do when you are doing a CBT therapy. You are writing out a worksheet, and every time that you go in, you come in with a negative thought that maybe you've had. And I'll give you a negative thought that I've had in the past that, I'll give you one that came up. I'm a bad mom. Right? Because of maybe something that went on in my home. I said or did things that I wasn't so proud of. So you go into a session, that would be the thought for the day, and then you work it out through your worksheet. And the idea is after you're done the worksheet, it probably takes an hour with the back and forth talking, you are coming up with an alternative thought to your original thought. Because oftentimes our negative thoughts stick with us for the day or for weeks. And this in itself can create anxiety and or depression, especially if all of our thoughts are negative, because this is where we're used to going. So look it up, cognitive behavioral therapy. There are many books that you can find. We offer CBT-based programs like mindfulness, meditation. CBT is based in there as well. Catherine, I use this as my 81-year-old partner is in the first level of Alzheimer's. Okay, so you're using this for yourself or for them? I'm curious. Robert, I experienced CBT, totally successful, a rescue of my soul. Yes, that's how I feel, Robert. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. And Shaminda, all right. So he set you up with a link. You're so good, Shaminda. Thank you. So there's a link there. There's all sorts there. And Catherine just wrote me to work with him in communications. Very good. There's a book that I can recommend. It's called, I'm having a brain fart now. Mood. I had a brain fart. I'm sorry. It'll come to me. If you go to any bookstore, if you go online right now and you type in CBT, all the books that are in relation to CBT will come up. The book that I'm thinking about has scenarios, and then it has worksheets that you can work out of. So we've come to the end of the session. I thank you so much. I think Mind Over Mood. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, that is the book, Mind Over Mood. If you want to check out a book, if you want to try this on your own, check out Mind Over Mood. Thank you. My information is here, my email and my cell number. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you're looking for services, thanks again, Shaminda, with the link, and you want to be pointed in the right direction, send me a message. I have no problem responding to your messages and phone calls.
So thank you so much, Tammy. We have maybe time for one or maybe two questions or comments, if there are any. We've got a couple of probing questions on the slide here. What's an added stress factor that you, means the audience here, has faced during the emergency? What types of things have you done to take care of yourself? We definitely heard a lot of that, Tammy, today. Does anyone else have any questions or comments they want to bring forward? Okay, so hold that train of thought. Thank you so much, Tammy. Very generous with your time. So Tammy, I'm going to turn my camera back on. Tammy had joined us yesterday on Instagram Live, kind of the first time that Volunteer BC was leveraging Instagram TV, as it's called. And, on there, Tammy was discussing with Vrunda, one of our volunteers, who's I believe is online today, just about some of the topics that we discussed here, but for the context of the benefit of the wider community, around mental health and how people are coping during the emergency. And we'd love to be able to extend that positive mindset elsewhere. And so one of the things that we've been asking is for organizations to share their positive stories with us. So if you know of some good news happening in the community, you can share it with the Volunteer BC Media team. So we've put a link onto the Versus COVID-19 page that says, share a positive story. And it's under the Get Involved section. And you can definitely just submit in that form any interesting stories that you've come across. Here are the types of things that we're looking for. Stories about good things happening in our community, perspectives on how you and your organization are operating or adapting during the emergency, or new program plans. Active volunteers who would be interested in sharing how they're helping out, so you can recommend a specific person for us to talk to, or any volunteers who is interested in sharing their own volunteer story, and then as well anecdotes or amusing or impactful moments within your organization or within a volunteer experience. So the forum, let's see quickly, kind of give us some highlights, and then we would get in touch with you. And we'd love to be able to talk to more organizations the way Tammy has been able to bring her expertise to the fore, and at the same time be able to help out our whole community. And we really need to get some more positive messages out there, and to be able to hear from organizations, for us to let the community know that we're still there for them, and that we're still very eager to assist them. And that they can ask their questions, or they can raise their concerns to us and help us identify what some of the community issues are. So we need all organizations and all of you to help us participate in that. If you'd like to be on a future session of Instagram TV, that could be something we can do. The output is not really what matters. What matters most of all is how the inputs we get from you, and then we can discuss how the output that would work best for you, or for that volunteer, or for that organization. So we want to hear about those community initiatives. There have been some really positive things happening. Last week, a lot of the emergency services did a parade for the frontline health workers and the public health workers as well. And so they went in a procession around in the fire trucks, and the police vehicles and the ambulances all went through and given a big congratulations to the region of Peel, a big thank you there. So that there are things that we are happening in the community, and we want to continue to tell people about them, but we definitely need the inputs from you. And even if you're feeling like right now, okay, our organization's in flux and we don't know exactly what's happening, that's still important to let people know that that things are going on, and you're working on things, and how it's affected you. It's very important for our community to have an increased understanding and awareness. So we really appreciate Tammy spending time with us today, so that we can enhance our own mental well-being. But also we want to extend that positivity out in the community, echo what some of these messages are that we heard today, but also be able to build more of it. And Volunteer BC sees a role that it can play with all of its member organizations, with its partners, and all of you, to be able to really emphasize the importance of caring for oneself and caring for others at this time. And this is an unprecedented time. It's going to take time for us to get back into as things start to slowly open up in some ways, and we get an idea of what's going on. It's going to really make a difference. And I think, Tammy, you can perhaps echo the how important it is, like, to hear good news. I think you were mentioning that we're sometimes that information overload of like all the negative things, and then having to follow along with, okay, when are things going to return, and are they all the uncertainty.
Mhm.
So would you agree that like we have to do something for our community as well, to kind of get them word out?
Yeah, I appreciate the stories, the real stuff. Anything that's too planned, I'm not going to lie, I'm getting annoyed with. A lot of organizations and companies on TV, they're getting on the bandwagon, how we're all in it together. They're trying to sell something. So if I gave my 2 cents, think about simple things that we're doing for other people that's real, that where you're making a connection. I don't know if anyone, has their 2 cents, but I like to see real things. Even the quotes can be a little bit exhausting over time, right? To stay positive. I think we need to be real as well, that, you know what, today I wasn't having such a good day, but I talked to so-and-so and I'm feeling a lot better. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
That's a really good point, and that's why we have a local volunteer center. Keep it local, keep it with actual people, and we want to tell that story. So we're out of time, but I want to thank Tammy once more and all of you for participating today. Next week we're talking about about youth, and that's going to be a really important discussion to have as well. So we're looking forward to your participation there, and for sure follow along on the resources on our COVID-19 page. We'll add all of the resources and the recording from this session there to share it with your teams and your colleagues and your friends. Let's keep it up, folks. We're doing a good job. We should feel good about what we're trying to do. And thanks again for your time, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks for having me. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Tammy.
Bye, everyone.